Hi, David Ellenstein here, Artistic Director of North Coast Repertory Theater. Thank you for tuning in today to our theater conversations. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. That would help us out a lot. Thank you. Hello, it's my pleasure today to be joined on Theater Conversations by my friend, the multi-talented and beautiful Amanda Sitton. Yay, hi Amanda.
Hello, it's so nice to see you.
And you, even though you know what, you're actually on my computer screen. You're not, where are you? I thought you were gonna be here.
I'm in the parking lot, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I'll
good.
be right in.
Do me a favor,
Oh,
stay
okay,
there,
okay.
stay there. Okay, so North Coast Repertory Theater audience will know Amanda from so many of her performances on our stage. And literally she goes back to almost when I first came to North Coast, because I think the first play we did together was Amy's View.
Yep.
Is that correct? Which you were awesome in, and it started a whole string of them, because then there was Collected Stories. And I know there was Don't Dress for Dinner, and there
Part 1 and 2.
Voice of Prairie,
right?
And there was Laughter on the 23rd Floor. And what am I leaving out?
Readings galore.
Readings galore.
There's another one. There's another. It'll come to me.
It's going to take you this long to come up with answers to what I ask you.
Yes. That's what they do on the Actors Studio. They ponder.
Oh, and it's very dramatic.
And it is. And I have my favorite curse word ready whenever you are.
All right, good. and because we are on camera, you get to take those dramatic pauses in close-up. Wait. Yeah. Okay.
Better?
Oh, that's
Better?
very good.
Very dramatic.
That's very good. That's very good. So Amanda, did you grow up in San Diego? So just so that our audience gets to know you a little bit, did you grow up here, and what made you go into theater?
I grew up in Sacramento, actually.
Oh.
I moved here when I was 9, and I started junior theater at that time. The best example of why I got into theater is my sister would offer me $1 if I could be quiet for an entire minute. I never, ever got that dollar. And so theater was the one place where my talents of talking too much seemed to pay off. So I started junior theater when I was 9, and then I started acting classes with DJ Sullivan, Darren Scott, Jessica John. I met all those guys when I was 14 and stayed with it then, was in theater all the way through high school, and then went to UCSD and majored in theater there.
Okay. I think the first thing I saw you in was The Gingerbread Lady.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. With Sandy.
With Sandy and George Kent produced it. And I remember going, oh, who's that? I don't know her.
And Jill Drexler was in that, who's a dear friend. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful cast. That was my first grown-up girl show.
So you have been in some of our big hit comedies, like Don't Dress for Dinner, like Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and been hysterically funny in those. But you've also been in a couple of our hit dramas, Collected Stories, Amy's View, etc. Can you talk about the difference of performing a drama as opposed to a comedy, and what the experience is like for you, and what you take away from it? And do you have a preference, one or the other?
Sure. So at the base of it, there's not much difference. Where it's listening, it's being open to the other actor. So at that very base level, drama and comedy I find very similar. But comedy, I think, personally, is much more difficult because there's the technical aspect to it that I don't find to be quite as not necessary, but perhaps as measured as it is in a drama. So the holding for laughs, the listening to the laugh line that's being given to you, making sure you don't step on your other actors' laughs, because it becomes very seductive in a comedy to just want to play for the laughs all the time, regardless. And if you, as the actor, are pulling focus when the intention is for your fellow actor to be getting the laugh, then you muddy up the whole thing. And so it's being respectful, listening, and that technical, down to the minute of knowing when to come in on your next line. So I prefer doing comedy, but I also think it's much more difficult than drama is. I can leave comedy on the stage though, unlike when I'm doing a heavy drama, that seems to come with me when I go home. I can't shake it as much. So it's, you know, they each have their own sort of pitfalls, but
Is there
yeah,
a specific
comedy.
example of that where you couldn't shake it, where there was a particular role you did that followed you home every night?
Sure. Most recently, I think it would be I did The Oldest Boy at the San Diego Rep, and that was about the decision to leave my child. And so, as a mother, that was a really difficult one for me to perform every night, and that one lingered with me a few months afterwards. I just couldn't shake that.
Yeah.
Amy's View was a hard one for me too. That the daughter roles where there's conflict with a parent and specifically a mother. I lost my mom when I was 17. And so that's it. I try not to dip into my own life too much, because I find as an actor, if personally, if I get too method with things where I try to pull on my own memories, that it doesn't have an authenticity with the other actors I'm on stage with. You know, if I'm too busy thinking about my own personal life, I'm not in it with them. So that's been something that I've learned as I've gotten older, is to not dip too much. You know, always as an arsenal, I always use my own experiences, but I don't use them like to cry or something like that. I try to stay authentic with the other actor I'm working with, because it's too, it gets too sadistic, really. You know, if I'm just like constantly picking the scabs of my own
Hmm.
experiences, but that's just something as I've gotten older, I've just been able to be more technical with that piece of it, with the drama piece of it.
Right.
I don't know if I answered anything just now.
I think you did. I think it was good. No, and I understand what you're saying. You know, you have to. I mean, you are only you at base, so you only are the experiences that you've had, and recreating things that you are familiar with or have touched upon in your life, and different actors go about it in different ways. But
Hmm.
unless you have some kind of experience that is authentic for yourself, it's hard to recreate it for an imaginary person. But you know, no, we all come to do it the way we do it, right?
Right. Right.
So you touched on the fact that you're now a mother.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when I first met you, you were single. I don't think you had a full-time job. You weren't
No, I was.
married. You weren't a mother. So now you're married, you're a mother, you have a full-time, really awesome kind of job, which maybe you
Yes,
can mention what that is. But
absolutely.
how has that changed you as a theater performer? How do you juggle all those things at the same time?
Um, I think it makes me better, to be quite honest. I have um, I have a job that I express gratitude for every single day. I am the visual and performing arts coordinator for the juvenile court and community schools. So I get to every day work with young people and see the way art can change lives, and the way art can truly bring out the human spirit. And so that makes me even more grateful to be able to get to do a show. I always say that before I go on stage, before I perform, I get to do this. So I think that deep gratitude for it definitely adds a layer to my performing that I didn't have before. Being a parent to two now, so I have an 8-year-old daughter, newly 8. She turned 8 last week, and a soon-to-be 3-year-old son is something that I am grateful to be able to show them that I still am a performer. So I do one show a year. As they get older, I hope to do more, but at this point, I do one show a year. And I hope that I'm setting an example that as an individual, my art is still very important to me, and that it makes me a better human and in turn a better mom. So I do step away while I'm doing the show. I, working full time and then going to rehearsal is always means I'm not as home as much, but I include them in all of my rehearsing, and they help me run lines and so, but it definitely does make me a better performer for sure.
I agree with you. I mean, I had a similar experience. It made me not only a better performer, a better theater artist, but also a better person for the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, just a better human.
Right. Stops. You stop just thinking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about your children and the world you're making for them too, right?
Absolutely. And a better listener and more patient and all the things that make you a better actor, so it's not, my line, blah, 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 my line, blah, blah, blah. You really are listening because you're listening all the time.
Right. You have to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thinking about, I mean, you've worked at so many of the theaters around town. You've done a lot of shows at North Coast, but you've done a lot of shows at a lot of theaters around town. Think of a couple of highlights from stuff you've done in town that you go, that was so much fun, or that meant so much, or this changed me, and I'm not plumping you to mention North Coast. Any shows that you've done that really stand out when I say this to you?
Sure. There's a handful. So my bucket list was Glass Menagerie at
Yeah.
Signet.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. I was newly pregnant with my daughter. And so it added a different dimension to it. And I say swan song without trying to have any pun intended with Signet Theater, but I knew that it was my last show as a non-mother, if that makes sense. And Laura is so fragile. And she wants so much, and she's so internal. And it kind of felt that I was transitioning into a point in my life where I wouldn't play characters like her anymore. It was probably the last time I was going to play that true ingenue. So that was just a personal and professional pivoting moment for me that I look back very fondly on. The comedies, here's one thing with being a parent and doing one show a year. I don't do as an actor, I think oftentimes we're afraid to say no. You're afraid that if a show's offered to you and you say no, it's the last time they'll ever want to work with you. It's the last time you'll be offered anything ever again. But I have a different priority list now, and if I say no to something and they don't ask me again, well, then they didn't want to work with me. I just do things differently. So now whenever I do a show, and I'm thinking of Laughter specifically, it has to be with people that I love, and it has to be so great every single night to go there that whenever I say bye to my kids, I say, this is amazing what I'm going to do, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. And so Laughter was exactly that.
When you say Laughter, you mean Laughter on the 23rd floor?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Sure. Yeah.
That's okay.
Sorry for the shorthand. Yes. Laughter on the 23rd floor. And of course you and Chris and Phil and just the whole cast was it. I think we had more fun backstage than on stage, if that's even possible. And so that to me is the shining example. And I've used that since of if it's not that fun, and if I'm not having that fun on stage and off stage, then I don't want to do it. Life is too short to spend time doing things that don't fill your cup.
But I got to say, that's setting the bar pretty high, Amanda, because
really high.
That was really fun.
That was really fun.
And as you say, what was going on backstage may have been as much fun, but it was certainly crazier.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy as that play is, and all the crazy things we were doing on stage, what was going on in that dressing room may have been crazier.
Yeah, I think you're right. And yeah, I could go on because truly every show that I'm in, there's some magic piece to it.
So talk about for the audience, because they don't always get to hear about this. So they get to come and see Laughter on the 23rd floor, and they see we're having fun, and they have a great time watching something like that, or Don't Dress for Dinner. But talk about what happens with the people and what is created with the people, the family of theater that's created that kind of never leaves you. Can you talk about that a little bit? And if that's been my experience, but talk about your experience of the relationships and the family kind of atmosphere that's created in the world when you do theater with people.
Sure. And I don't want to get too heavy, but
No, but say what you
um,
say.
so my mom was diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 9. And every 6 months, she was given 6 months to live. And she passed when I was 17. And if I didn't have DJ's class, or if I didn't have junior theater, I can honestly say I would not be here today. It was those relationships that I built in theater, and it's why I take it so seriously, because it is my family. It's my de facto family that I've built, and I take those relationships and my work extremely seriously. It's um, it is a professional relationship, but it like you use the word family, and that's truly what it turns into, because you are so vulnerable when you're doing it right. You are giving the best and worst of yourself and sharing that with people that you may have just met an hour ago, and suddenly you're thrown into the situation where you need to create relationships, and you need to be a husband or mother or daughter, and have the audience truly believe that you are family performing on stage. And it's that shorthand that you have with other actors that allows the audience to feel that, but it can't all be make believe. There is that trickle over where it does become that real familial feeling when you're in rehearsal for all those hours, when you're spending all your breaks together, that on closing night, it's not like all of a sudden those feelings and emotions go away. They're real. And then to be able to get to work with people again and form these bonds, it's magic. It really is.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of bonds that you might have formed, because the first 2 times we worked together, I put you in a major role opposite a extraordinarily experienced and really strong leading woman. You were the young woman with the lead.
Mm-hmm.
The first time was Amy's View, and you were opposite Rosina Reynolds as your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the second time was Collected Stories, and you were opposite Candace Chappelle as your mentor and teacher.
Yes.
Can you talk about those 2 experiences and dealing with actors of that power and that experience when you're a young actor, and what that was like?
Absolutely. So the motto that I use just in life is low ego, high respect. So when I walk into a situation, I try to carry that mantra with me. Um, both both Rosie and Candace were so deeply maternal and open and giving from the get-go. And I still have relationships with both women. And to be able to work with women that are that strong and talented and kind is something that shaped the actor that I wanted to be at the time, and the actor that I'm still becoming. And I've had the great fortune of working with Rosie numerous times since then. Notably, we worked on Doubt together, Sister Aloysius and Sister James, and she's directed me. We just did a show together, and watching her as a master class in acting. And she has become, again, to use that word, she has become family, as has her daughter. So it can be truly intimidating, when you're working with like the Maggie Smith of San Diego, right? um, but I think just going in there with that low ego, high respect, but also knowing what I'm worth too, going in there with confidence, but without bravado, I think is for me, that has always been key.
Yeah, well, I saw that in you. That's why I was comfortable putting you with them, because you're going to have to hold your own. You're going to have
Yeah.
to hold your own. in both of those, especially, I mean, yes, with Rosie, absolutely. And she had that monstrous role. You know, she had the big, I mean, you had a large role, but she had the big role. But
Mhm.
coming into Collected Stories, where it was actually the third time that Candace
Yeah.
and had won awards for doing it before, and you were suddenly stepping in to play a part that had already been played with her by two other people, that was going
Mhm.
to take fortitude to hold
Absolutely.
your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's those pep talks, and if I couldn't do it, I wouldn't be here. You know, those
right.
kinds of things that I would tell myself. And how gracious she was as well, and you as well as the director. It was, I was never uncomfortable in those situations where it really could have been.
Yeah, well, you did great. I mean, there was never an issue regarding it was just figuring out the play, right?
Right.
And the
Right.
relationship. So
Right.
that was never an issue. So that's why it's always been a pleasure to have you here. So you say you're only doing one show a year now. I hope you're going to come and do one here sometime
Oh, I hope so.
and pick
I
North
hope
Coast Rep
so.
as your place again.
Yes. Well, North Coast has always been, like you said, from the time that you started there, it's always been my home, you know. Even though Chris Williams is there, it's still
uh,
he's like my brother. I love that.
yeah, even if I made you act on stage with me when I was in my underwear, you know,
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
what can
And
you do to
Phil.
anybody? And Phil Johnson, my goodness.
Oh, the
and
hack.
and Omri. You know, you had to be up there with Omri and
Oh
Lewis and
God.
and Nick Cooper, all those
Nick.
people. You know,
um,
but we needed you to like show us the way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So
I mean, I saw them taking notes.
do you still have a bucket list? Do you have roles that you
I
really hope you get to play?
I do. I do, but now it tends to be sort of the classics, you
Yeah,
know,
like
the
what?
um some Chekhov, even
Mhm.
some Shakespeare. That's the thing. I haven't done much Shakespeare. Um I did some in college, but that's always been I know it's not done as much because the casts are so huge. I've done readings and whatnot, but yeah, I'd love to do
Which
a
Chekhov
Lear.
did you do? Which Chekhov?
Well, we did a reading of The Cherry Orchard
You
that
did.
I really really enjoyed that.
You read Varya, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great play. I'd still love to do that. And
Yeah.
you still got time for that one. I mean,
Yeah.
she's younger, but she's not younger. She's not a young soul. So
No.
yeah,
No. Yeah.
yeah.
What about you? What's on your bucket list?
Talking to you.
Yeah. Way to
Ah,
pivot. Way to pivot.
I don't know. You know, I would like to do more Shakespeare. I would like to do more. I'd like to do more classics. I At North Coast Rep, it's difficult because of the cast sizes on many of these plays. But it was always my first love. I've ended up doing lots of small dramas in my life and lots of farcical comedies in my life. And earlier in my life, I did a lot of Shakespeare, but it's been a while now. So getting back to it would be great. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
that. But this isn't supposed to be my interview. It's supposed to be your interview. How did you do that?
Low ego, high respect.
There we go. Well, Amanda, it's great to see you. Thank you for doing this for our audience. They're going to love getting this kind of backstage glimpse of you and finding out a little bit about you
Much.
other than you when you get stuff on you and have to wipe it off like in Don't Dress for Dinner.
With a spoon, right. Yeah.
Spooning. Right.
Hmm.
That was a funny. A couple people still talk about that play. Our former board president Alan Mofson always talks about Amanda walking across the stage in that. That's what he remembers. You
Oh my
walking across the stage in Don't Dress for Dinner.
God. There's so many of those actor stories, like when was it, I think it was Jackie Wilkie kicked her shoe into the front row of the audience, and the dear audience member who sat there with her shoe, and then when our little scene vignette was over, she put the shoe back on the stage and quietly whispered, "Here's your shoe." And how Aaron Rumley would have to give me a note every night: "You're not supposed to laugh on stage." You're not supposed to laugh. I'm like,
Well,
I know. I
well,
know. I'm not
well,
doing this on purpose.
yeah, you guys had a lot of fun on that one, I remember.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, Amanda, it's great to see you. I hope I get to see you in person soon, and
Absolutely.
I hope we get to do another play together soon.
Me too.
All right.
It's great to see you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.